we've got we have a little cafe not far from here that has some products from Alagoas. They have some really nice cheese.
Interesting.
So people, we are now on YouTube and here with you. Please open your cameras. And then
We have a little cafe not far from here that has some products from Alagoas. They have some really nice cheese.
yeah. So people, we are now here. I'm opening my presentation. Yes, open your cameras for me to see you. Okay, people. Okay. There's Cliff. Turn on the. Are you on YouTube? Or is it me?
It's you.
Okay, now I have no sound here. So people, here we are. So first of all,
McDonald's.
I have here a presentation about one thing that is very important for me.
We're looking at the YouTube page, Amor.
Yeah, why? But
You have to
I'm
share
sharing.
again and click on your presentation.
Okay, here. Now we are on the same page, right? Okay. I need someone to cut the video after class. Okay. So here is our journey, the journey of a hero. So people, the hero's journey, we are always focused on the idea of journey, because everything in our lives becomes with a journey. I'm not going to introduce everything to you because I believe everybody here has already heard about this journey, all right? About the hero's journey. Is there anybody that I didn't tell the story? Edson, Paulo, I believe everybody knows that. This is just to show this thing to you. Let me organize it here because, oi, José, I saw you now. Nice to see you. Okay. And then here, let's go. We are going to talk a little bit about a very important book that I read. I believe Michelle also has it to read. If you didn't read Start With Why yet, do that. It's an easy book to read, and it's not and it has a very good content, right? So this is the book, and this is the author, that is Simon Sinek. I loved his material, and he also has a TED Talk, 2 TED Talks in reality, talking about the golden circle. That is an interesting thing for us to talk about, especially if you are an entrepreneur or if you are if you work in a company, and if you think about his concept, you can do better in everything. Cliff, would you like to comment about something about the book before I continue? Yes, no?
I have to be honest, I've only read 60% of the book. I haven't finished it. But Simon Sinek also has a channel on YouTube with a lot of stuff. Some of you who study with me as private students, as individual students, I've used his video, Most Leaders Don't Even Know the Game They're Playing, which is a great video about generational conflict, but about how people have to deal with with coworkers and subordinates. And you can follow him on Instagram too. He's got almost daily videos that are fantastic things. Are you going to give any biographical stuff about him, Amor?
No, I just read the book and I saw the
Yeah.
2 videos.
He's got a kind of multicultural life story. He grew up divided between South Africa, the United Kingdom, and the United States. And I think he went to university in 3 different countries too. And he's such a respected consultant about organizational communication that he's one of the few civilians that is allowed access to the American Navy SEALs training program. And it's, you know, if you know anything about the US military, that's the most elite part of the US military. And they hired Simon Sinek to help them improve their communication. He's worked with the United States Air Force with their officer training, and I think all of the Fortune 10 companies. So he's kind of a well-regarded consultant in dealing with communication issues in companies.
And then here he has, so, and here we start with a question of Simon Sinek. That is, why are some people in the organization more innovative, more influential, and more profitable than others? These questions are for you to think about in the time we are going to open for us to talk. But if everyone wants to cut me and ask something, be free to do that, okay? Why do some command greater loyalty? Because we see a lot of companies that don't have loyalty of the employees. We see countries, we see very many different people and the situations that we don't see loyalty of other people. These were the 2 questions from the beginning of the book. And here we have, why is our purpose, your cause, your belief. So everybody has his one why. Why do I live? Why do I do what I do? What I want to achieve? Why do I want to achieve something? So everything for Simon Sinek and in this book starts with why. So then I put here some questions. Why does your company exist? What is your company? Why? So why do you get out of bed every day? So, and why should anyone care? And I have a question. Why do you study English? If you say that's because my boss wants, it's the wrong answer, because the why comes internal. It's something internal. That's why we need to think about these questions, because when I open for us to talk to each other, we need to talk about our why. And then here, I want to tell a little bit about our why.
But where did you get those beautiful models? Those models are fantastic.
Yes, the best ones. Okay. And then our why. So people, I'm going to tell you the story about Seminole. So before I started Seminole, I was a bilingual secretary. I worked for multinationals. I worked with in different areas. The first company I worked with that was an international company was an insurance broker. At that time, it was the #1 of the world. I don't know which one is now, but I loved it to work there. And then I worked for this company. I worked for a mining company. I worked for a packaging company. But I finished my career in multinationals in mining. And then what I saw in the market, people didn't know how to communicate in English. Speaking English, people know, but communicate to really show what they want to show, to really say what they want to say. And then I usually was the person who read the reports in English, and they were terrible. And sometimes I needed to tell my bosses, please send me the report in Portuguese, because your English, I need to ask you what you mean. And then I started doing this, and then my last boss was fantastic, and he allowed me to have a group of supervisors to study English every Friday at 9 a.m. I don't know if Edson will remember that. Do you remember that, Edson?
Yes, yes, I remembered.
I received a prize. It was
That's very
about
good.
half salary I received because of my idea. And then we started studying together. It was very nice. And then the time passed, and I decided to help other people to achieve their goals, to make presentations. And then I opened a company. The name was not Seminole, it was Survival English. But we had a big challenge when we wanted to register our brand, because there was another company with the same name in São Paulo. And then we needed to change the name. Then Cliff brought Seminole. And then English for Professionals came a little bit later. And then we started working our brand, working about our goals. And then Cliff and I, we worked a lot, because when I worked at Survival, I worked alone. Then Cliff came a little bit later, not very, very long, but. And then we started working together, and then Seminole is growing each time more. And now we can achieve all the country and also abroad, because we have students in Portugal, in the United States, and in Latin America. Would you like to say something else, Cliff, about our story, our why? Our why is the careers.
Yeah, I related to your presentation, the focus on this, on trying to understand why we were doing it and why we want to serve our clients, was something that helped us focus more and helped us to do a big, helped us make the changes that we needed to make in order to achieve the level of success that we wanted. So I think that this type of analysis, the golden circle, which you're going to talk about, I think it's important for everybody to undertake, and not necessarily just in business, but sometimes in our personal lives as well.
Yeah. Because of course the why is in everything we do in our lives. And then here we have the golden circle. And here we always should start with why. He says that the core of everything is why. And he also tells it is related to some parts of our brain. And then when you know your why, you can realize your how. And then the what. The what only comes after how. So you say, you need to think, what's my why? How can I do that? And what can I do to achieve that? And he also, and Simon Sinek also talks about some companies. He makes a comparison between Microsoft and Apple. And it is very interesting because he also tells that people from Microsoft did the funeral of Apple. And people, it is in YouTube, it's on YouTube. If you look for it, the Apple funeral, you are going to find it. It was a complete ceremony. And I think, and he says that Apple survives not because it's the best equipment at all, but because Apple started with why. And every company with big success, hi Natasha, every company with big success started with why, okay? And here, it's a sentence, he said, then the golden circle provides compelling evidence of how much more we can achieve if we remind ourselves to start everything we do by first asking why. And he says that there are companies that started with why and they lost the why in the process, and then they lost a lot. They changed a lot. They lost a lot. So, and he also says that the why of a company should be delivered to every employee, to everyone. Everyone needs to know the why. Everyone who is inside a company. This is not.
There's a funny part in the book. I don't know if you're going to specifically talk about this, but when he's talking about some companies trying to write down their why, and he said, if you need to put honesty in one of your, in one of your organizational goals, you have big problems. It's not just a matter of coming up with 5 key words that are going to sound good. It has to really fit with what your central mission or purpose is,
Yeah. And he also, there is a part of the book, he says we need to think about our why, even when we are hiring people. This is a very big challenge. I'm in our companies in the beginning of the process of growing, but big companies have the challenge, they have the same challenge. And we need to bring people that their why corresponds to our why. Because if it's not like this, we can have problems according to the process. And here, I didn't find another image with a better image. And then here he says the power of why is not opinion, it's biology. And he says that it's completely focused and related to some parts of our brain. So why is with our limbic brain, is related to our limbic brain, and what with our neocortex, that is what is more related to our rational brain, and why with the part of our emotion. Okay, Cliff, you can talk.
A really good illustration of this that he avoids using in the book for, I think, obvious reasons for when the book was published was this really clearly explains why Donald Trump won the United States election instead of Hillary Clinton. Because what Hillary Clinton was offering to people was a 12-point plan. And then reason. And what Donald Trump was offering the American people was make America great again. And that make America great again resonated with our patriotism, with our hearts, and that like more primitive side of us that is the thing that really helps us make decisions isn't necessarily logical at all. Because I mean, if you look at that American election, all logic and reason said Hillary Clinton was going to be president. But, for Americans, the Trump message was closer to our hearts. So, it gained him more supporters. Simon Sinek skirts around them in the book because I don't think he wants to say their names to not be controversial. But he does mention like how even in political messages, we're much more likely to go for things like patriotism than we are for a practical explanation of a plan.
Okay. Achieve their American emotion. Okay. Just a moment here. Okay. And here there are some companies that started with Y. So Apple is one. He's a big fan of Apple, okay? He talks about Apple all book long. He also tells a story about Disney because he says that every person that is the Y person needs a how person with them. Because in Disney, he says the Walt Disney was the how of the Y person. He saw everything, he wanted to do everything, and then his brother was always get him. So no, it's not the time. We are going to do it this way. And then that's why Disney is a success. And he says if Walt Disney was the only guy, Disney was not the company it is now. Then he also talks a bit about Southwest Airlines because he told that it should enter the market as the cheapest airline company, and but they had a very good why, and the way they treated their employees, the way they the employees were dressed, they had loyalty of their employees. And he says it's until now of their employees, and as their employees are loyal, also their customers are loyal to them, even when they have money to pay a more expensive company. The book is based on a lot of research, so people, I'm just telling what is written in the book, right? I don't know Southwest Airlines, and my former bosses, they didn't travel Southwest Airlines.
I think you have to understand the context. Southwest created the low-cost niche. It was the airline that decided to democratize air travel.
Yeah.
And they put the idea of your family flying someplace for vacation into the possibility of American families. So it's kind of a seminal idea, actually. It's one of these things that the people. It's one of these things that people, why does JetBlue exist? JetBlue exists because they're trying to copy this idea that Southwest Airlines came up with. The idea that you can travel from London to Madrid for 38 pounds. So if you're not familiar with that period of the airline industry, you might not understand the importance of the story, but it was revolutionary because airlines up until that point was kind of like a luxury market that didn't think that they needed to broaden into a small market. And I think in that period of rapid growth, they went from something like, I don't know, they had 3 airplanes or something at the beginning, and then they got up to 38 airplanes in one route. In the part of that southwest part of the United States, which is Arizona, New Mexico, Southern California, and Texas, they ended up with a whole bunch of airplanes on that route because of the way that they were focused. And the head of Southwest Airlines, said that he wanted his companies to know he had their back. Like he would go when he had free time, he wasn't doing anything in his office. He would go down and load planes, like physically put the bags on the planes with his employees, you know? So the CEO knew the guy who was loading the bags on the planes. And it was kind of a different way to approach running that kind of business. And I mean, I don't know exactly the numbers, but when the airline sold, it sold for billions of dollars. So it's a unbelievable success story.
Yeah. And he also says that the why is what makes people to tattoo your brand on their bodies. So Disney, Harley, Apple, I saw a lot of people with these tattoos in their body. And so if I see somebody with our brand on their their skin, is going to be fantastic. But and he says that's these that make people to tattoo and to really be your supporter as a brand. And of course, people, when you have a why and you work in a company, people remember about you forever. I tell you because I worked with SulAmérica Insurance, and the people who were my clients at that time, they remember me till now. And sometimes I meet people on the street, oh, we miss you too much. It was people a very, very long time ago. I left the company in 2008. And there are people who remember about me till now. And so we, as I told you, we have our why. That's why sometimes I'm very boring when I see people skip classes. Today I was doing this kind of service, looking for people who didn't come to class, and I was calling each one. Oh, what happened? You lost a lot of classes this month. And I'm very sad when I see people lose classes, skip our classes, because English, you only can communicate, you only learn English if you have constancy and if you speak English every day, every moment. So it's not because I want to make you feeling bad, but I'm always worried, concerned about you. That's why I look after you when I see you don't come to classes. Okay. Because our why is to help you to really communicate in English. And here, there is another sentence that Simon Sinek has in the book. So great leaders are those who trust their gut. You need to trust your feelings. And then here, this sentence is very nice. They are those who understand the art before the science. They win hearts before minds. They are the ones who start with why. So if you are a leader, we always have something to learn. I told Cliff, oh, we always have something to be better. And that's the magic of being human. You can see something to improve in yourself every day. And good leaders are always looking for being better in something. Now I have a question. What's your why? That's what we are going to talk right now. If somebody wants to talk about what I said, you can say, or you can ask me something. I just make it's in short, in a nutshell, because I want you to read the book, of course. Okay, Cliff, Michelle, did you read your book? No? Not yet? No?
Can I give a business case before we start the discussion?
Sorry?
Because can I give a business case before we start the discussion?
Yes, of course.
I was really lucky to work for Chrysler Corporation at the time that they adopted this type of focus. I started I think my first summer job there was something like 1988. And then I believe it was 1989 that the union and the company, who had always had kind of a traditional negotiating problems, the union and the company sat down for a new kind of contract called the Modern Operating Agreement. And the thing that like shows the way the contract was focused is that the first page of the contract doesn't mention any obligations of the company or the employees at all. The first part of the contract says the mission of us all is to make the best quality car possible at the best possible price for our clients. And when the union and the company like sat down and said, that's where we're starting to negotiate, with the idea that all of us want to do something we're proud in, we all want to make a great product, we all want satisfied customers. So when the union sat down and the company sat down together and decided that that was the principle the rest of the contract was based on, it changed the relationship with the union fundamentally. Like the constant work stoppages that they had in the 70s and 80s basically just stopped happening. And it just changed a lot about the relationship of the company. And there was a time before the Daimler Chrysler merger that Chrysler dollar for dollar was the best investment in automotive companies. Like for each dollar invested, it had the best payout. They later did a merger with Daimler, and Daimler couldn't accept that Chrysler, couldn't accept that culture. But that period of the 90s was a heyday for the Chrysler Corporation, the end of Lee Iacocca's time and the beginning of Bob Eaton, with that focus that was like, we just want to make great cars, you know? And it created the Dodge brand that even today is, you know, that's a brand that people tattoo on themselves too, you know? So it kind of brought the Dodge brand that's so popular today into the worldwide focus that it is, you know?
Starting with you, Cliff. What is your why right now?
This is one of those things that came up in a training that we did one time. And something that we kind of immediately agreed on was that our purpose is our client's success. You know, like I don't like to criticize our competitors, but our goal is not just to take people's money. We want people to succeed in what they're doing. And we don't lie about like the magic powers of our method. We're honest that learning is an investment that you need to make yourself. You know, I can guide you and coach you through it, but learning is an investment that you need to make yourself. So, you know, we don't make those, you're going to learn 100 words every week promises, or, you know, fluency in 21 days, like certain of our competitors will promise. When, you know, if you study languages seriously, those things are nonsense. It's just not possible. And I think it's discouraging to people to hear unrealistic commitments like that. So, and I think it's a thing that sets us apart. People are loyal to us and people like our work because the idea is for them to be successful at what they're doing, you know, in their careers and in communication.
Which was very interesting, people. Last week, I talked to a guy. He is following us through the internet for more than 6 months. He knows about you, about us, a lot of things. I thought, my God, how he knows? How can he know everything I post? He really is following us. And then he came to talk to me. And it's interesting. And also people say, oh, I like the way you talk. You invited me to know your company. And it's interesting because I say that I do things with my heart, because I'm not just I don't want to just to sell our course. I want to help people to achieve their goals. And now I want to listen to you. Shelley, let's speak, people. Only Cliff and I.
My turn. It's my turn. I agree with Cliff. It's not easy to help people to achieve the goal. Is difficult. Imagine in English, in another language. My why for English is not a specific why. It's my goal. It's my challenge. I want to learn more, and I want to feel comfortable to every day, and also every day we have for experience or for moments, and it's necessary to speak in English, for example. And I need to prepare for some events, but I think it's not only a meeting or presentation. It's like maybe a conference, exactly, maybe. But my challenge today is to prepare to the challenge, or to exactly Monday when I need to speak in English and I need to use correct words. Sometimes it's words, and for me it's a challenge to speak and people understand. And maybe it doesn't, but I want to be more perfect, and it's difficult to speak wrong and very different message for any assumption. This is my today.
But I think that a thing that we regularly hear people say is that fear of trying to communicate because they're afraid of making mistakes, when people have to be willing to, I mean, you need to be willing to take a risk when you talk. That goes for Portuguese or English. I mean, Andrea can give hundreds of sales stories that if she wasn't willing to take the risk to communicate with the person, be that in English or in Portuguese, she couldn't possibly have made the connections that she made. So, I mean, I think that that's a key issue. I see that a lot with Brazilian people, but related to Andrea's circle, that focus on I'm afraid to make that mistake is the how part of the circle, right? But the idea that you want to use is the why part of the circle. And like I think everybody has an important contribution to make. Michelle, you have an important contribution to make to your organization. You know, you have an important contributions to make in your personal and your social life and all these things, you know. So I think a key part of communicating in a general sense, not just in English, guys, is, you know, the ability to say, you know, maybe I'm going to make mistakes, but getting my message through is more important.
Amiris, you can
I
talk.
lose sound.
I just raised my hand because I want to say something. The thing that Cliff said, that we are sometimes afraid to make mistakes in English. I got rid of it in my case. Just think that we make mistakes in Portuguese all the time. We just speak. We don't speak I don't know if I can say this word in English, but I don't speak perfect in Portuguese, and I don't mind it. I just don't think that sometimes I use the wrong verb tense. But when it comes to English, we Brazilian think too much about it, and we forget to think about what we are trying to say. We just keep holding to the perfect grammar or perfect pronunciation. That's not the message of learning a language. The first case. First.
If you think, like, why are you learning another language, or why are you studying another language? You're learning it in order to be able to communicate with people. Keisha Brewer is one of the experts that we reference a lot. And one of the things she says is that any type of relationship building is focused on your purpose. So, like you said that thing about Portuguese, which I have used that example many, many times myself. Brazilians don't care how they sound when they speak Portuguese, in a general sense. And then they're very nervous about using, oh, is my present perfect correct? But in Portuguese, you wouldn't think twice about it and you'd be fine with it. It wouldn't cross your mind to worry about your verb conjugation. You can't think of the word in Portuguese, you say trem, right? And
I was talking to Cliff this week about a person. I was doing my presentation in Portuguese. And when I listened to the guy speaking Portuguese, I thought my Portuguese is terrible. And it's not. I know I speak Portuguese very well. But the way he spoke in a very right way. People, it's nice, it's beautiful to see somebody speaking Portuguese in a very right way. It's fantastic. But if we are speaking another language, English, Spanish, any other language, we are not native. And then the most important thing for a person from another country is to be comprehended. You need to understand. We want to speak, for example, if you are in another country that you are not native, you only want to be that the other person understand what you say. The same thing happens here. When a native person comes to Brazil or they try to speak English or Portuguese, they don't want to speak correctly. They want to be understood. Okay. Understood, sorry. So you see there, everybody makes mistakes, and I don't worry. I just correct myself. Okay, that is the strategy. Clear? No?
That's the thing about making mistakes. I don't want to focus on a learning lesson today, but I always say the same thing. No one has ever learned to ride a bike without skinning their knees. In all of history, no one has ever learned to ride a bike without skinning their knees. And when you skin your knees, you don't stop riding bikes. You get back up on the bike.
Even walking. Do you imagine a baby in there and it's 1 year old and they start walking? They don't think, oh, am I walking the right way? No, they just walk. Okay.
My younger son would just run with his big old head. His head was too heavy for his body, and he would run with his big old head getting closer and closer to the ground until he dove onto the ground. But then he'd get back up and start running again, and he walks. He didn't jump onto his face and then start crying.
Maybe you need to try speak. Sometimes people do away and don't speak or don't try this message, and this is a problem. when box is in
Michelle, I lost your
you,
audio.
I don't know, you need exposure in English situation. It's not good.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
lost your audio. I couldn't, like half of your words I lost.
Yeah, I think there is a problem on her audio.
Maybe it's the connection.
Yeah. So, Adriana, Natasha, Thelma, Edson, José, I would say José. Let's go. Dri? Dri is ashamed to speak English. Oh,
I'm later. Sorry. I don't say speak why for my life, but because uh, I have afraid to speak in English. This curse is my second curse, but I don't like speak, but I don't speak in English very well. But for me, it's a challenge every day.
speaking.
Every day, a little. Each day, better, little. This.
But you are speaking English.
Oh.
I'm happy to see you speaking here with us.
I taught you your whole class this week. You didn't speak Portuguese for an hour. So.
But I understand everything that we talk in this class. But speak is my challenge.
But sometimes, Adriana, we don't understand everything the person says, but in the context, you can understand. Then you answer, there's no problem. We have a student today in London, right, Cliff? That Patrick is. Patrick is
Yes.
in London. And Patrick is having a lot of challenges there. He sent me a message. He got lost in the city. Imagine. He told me that yesterday he arrived at home at 10 p.m. because he got lost after class. And he, in Portuguese, he is se virando. He is doing everything. So people, the challenge everybody has. And when you are in another country, there is another thing, is the cultural shock. Because you are stressed, you are anxious because of the language. Yes, that's it, Michelle. And imagine there is the cultural shock. Is this the word, Cliff? Or there,
Yeah, culture shock.
Or is there another expression?
No, it's it. That's it. Culture shock.
He had this culture shock everybody has when you arrive abroad, but you need to deal with it. And he is there and having his challenge, very happy. And that's it. So I'm sure, Adriana, you are going to develop a lot. You developed it because you speak English all class long when we are working together. And you, Natasha, what's your why? Or are you looking for your why?
And you say that sometimes I don't understand Griff, but I understand the context, so it's okay. Doing the class now, what? I got the context. I just.
That's it.
I'm joking. No, I never thought about a why in my life that I remember. What makes me move on sometimes is when I'm not comfortable with a situation. when I'm not happy with that. And when I wish to a lot something, this is, I think, is my right. In this moment in my life, one of my right for these years is to get a promotion. So I am trying to do everything that my boss wants, what I have to change in my behavior that to get this. So maybe it will be not this year, or maybe not in this company, but it is the moment that I'm feeling. It's time to change, not to keep it where I am. So one of these things is this. And the personal change, personal why is to buy less. Because in my past, all during the long of my life, I used to buy a lot of things that I don't need. Now that I'm not now, some years ago, I realized that I don't need so much things. I don't need all this kind of things. I have 2 tents today, and I wish to buy another one, but I can't now. And I'm thinking, why I want to buy another one if these 2 tents, it's okay. I can use it. It's okay for me. So sometimes it's just my anxious speaking, not what I really is necessary for me. But it's
Yes, wonderful. Why do I need it? It's a very good feeling, a very good question.
yes. When you have so many dogs, you start asking why, if they need sometimes so many things too. So I need to take care of them, and they are becoming old early, yes, and they demand more attention and more. I need to take them more to the vet, so I'm spending more money with them too, just because they are become old. So it's complicated.
Well, have a baby first. If you have a baby, you are going to.
Not prepared to have a baby, not now.
Yeah. Any comments, people? No comments, people. You don't need to ask you to talk. Okay, Tamiris, let's go.
Honestly, I knew the guy of the book. I don't know what his name is.
Simon Sinek.
Simon Sinek. I have seen some short videos of him on YouTube, but I didn't know him, like his message and all. And I never thought about the why in my life. And I'm really confused now because it seems something about related to business and people who sell things. I'm a student, so it's a bit confused to me to think about a why in my life. But for sure, I will be thinking about whys in my life now. But I don't know how to answer your question. What is my why? I don't know what is my why right now, but I will think about it.
Well, but you are doing a master degree, aren't you?
Actually, I'm a PhD student. So
Yeah. So what's your why? Why
Yeah.
are you a PhD student?
Okay, I didn't think about that. I was thinking like why I want to be a meteorologist, or why I want to, I don't know, my future plans, how they will apply to change people's life. But I didn't think about it before, so it's on the spot. I don't know the answer. Yeah,
You will find it.
hopefully.
Thelma, Edson.
Yes, Andrea, now I have some courage to speak in English. I'm so
good.
afraid, yes. I'm
Very
so afraid
nice.
to speak in English. I think many words to do the right, to talk the right things, but I try to do it. My why, for my reason to life, to anything, I would like, I try to be the reason of my children's. It's my why. And the reason that I come back to English, I think that my children think it's very important to them. It's very important to me to develop, to travel, to work, to develop the English, and I can do it to put it the routine in my house, to the English film, to everything in English, because I think it's very important, not only to live, but to work. But you told to Patrick, I think it's to survival in another country. And today, I think it's very important to a new generation. I think I like to live in Brazil, but I think that they need to live abroad, because I think they return to Brazil and they are too value to the professional life, because the Brazilian people like to value people who live abroad. And for example, I think he could be a specialization for abroad. I think it's true value, it's a increased value in the professional life than professional life. And I think it's all.
Well, about it, I want to tell you one thing. There is a lot of the market works a lot living abroad, but it's an experience, a very good experience. And there is another thing. If you go abroad, if you do a course there, and if you come back to Brazil and you don't study English, can you guess what happens? You
stop
lose
it
your...
all the time. Yes, you lose.
You are,
Yes.
there is a sense you are stuck in your
Yes.
career at the same way as if you didn't go. People, the experience is important, but keeping your fluency is important too.
But I would like to put the English in my home routine to everything, because I think they use it to listen English, to use it to talk in English. I would like to do it.
There's a language specialist now who's talking about how, like, we have a traditional view of, oh, I'm going to go to the foreign country and live there for 6 months, or I'm going to live there for a year. And oh, that's absolutely necessary for me to learn a language. But there's a modern specialist who said that, not that that's bad, but it doesn't guarantee you any learning. You know, and this idea of putting it into the kids' cycle is super important. Like, I don't teach children anymore, but when I used to teach children, one of the things that we tell parents is, if you're putting your 4 or 5-year-old in an English class, you can't be terribly concerned about grammar. The idea is not that your 5-year-old is speaking. The idea is that your 5-year-old is getting used to it. You know, so that idea of putting it in your kids' lives, even though you think, oh, it's not that much time, it is super important for their ability to understand and develop skills later. You know, and there really isn't an age that's too early. There's not an age that's too late either. Like, oh, my kid's 13, I've never done it yet. Doesn't matter, start now, right? But my kid's 2, is it too early? No, go ahead. The human brain is remarkably adaptable in being able to tell different languages apart. You know, like, kids generally past a certain age stop mixing their languages together. Even kids in trilingual families where it's Spanish, English, and Portuguese, after a certain age, they stop mixing the languages together kind of naturally. So that idea that you have, Telma, is extremely important for your children. Like, that's a fantastic way to think.
Yeah, I see about my son. He doesn't speak English with us, but he can understand everything.
Yeah, we watched a complicated movie the other day in English. I have a hearing problem in one ear, so I like to put on the English subtitles when I watch movies, right? And we watched a fairly complicated movie in English with English subtitles, and he understood everything.
Yeah. And sometimes when Cliff and I want to say something for
Private.
and we don't want to that Pedro understands it, he understands.
Now we're going to have to learn Arabic or something so that we have a private language that we can use.
I used the same technique in my house some years ago. Now we can't anymore because now he understands English too. So I can't use anymore.
But I think we not Arabic, but Spanish, I think it can be a good option for me. I want to improve my Spanish too. That's because I'm talking about improve my Spanish for a long time. Cliff knows about that. But today I received a prospect that is from Paraguay, and he told me he wants to study English with us, and he doesn't speak Portuguese. As I have some Spanish, I can try. It's a try because I don't feel confident in teaching Spanish. So I will try. And then I tell you if it worked, because I have at least intermediate in Spanish. Okay, so, but people, it's important to practice. And if you practice English with Spanish and other languages, if you, for example, Thelma, do you speak any other language?
No.
No?
I think that I how can I say, arrependimento?
I regret.
I regret to speak Japanese because when I was a child, my grandmother, she only speak Japanese, but she died when I was a child. But at my home, everybody only talk Japanese with my grandmother. And after she died, we didn't do it anymore. And I studied Japanese in school, but I stopped. And I remember only some words, but I don't do a phrase. I don't talk about it, and I regret to stop it. Because today, if I continue, I have a good opportunity to work, to develop, because some Japanese company contract only people who speak Japanese, and you can find it in Brazil and different places. And I regret to stop it.
Yeah, when I lived in São Paulo, I lived with two girls that are Japanese descendants, and both of them spoke Japanese. Speak because they are alive. They speak Japanese, and it is interesting.
I don't want to be controversial. I studied just a year of Japanese in college, and Japanese is way easier than English.
Easier.
And I understand that the reading system is complicated, but the grammar system in Japanese is beautiful. Like, I feel like if Earth needed a common language, Japanese would be excellent because the grammar system is just fantastic. Things that we take for granted in other languages, like Portuguese has this really complicated system with plurals. Japanese doesn't bother with that, you know? And it's like, oh, but how do they do it?
Difficult to understand.
Yeah. But, you know, in some ways it's easier to understand. And I felt like at the time in university, it was a language that's not that difficult to start speaking if you're practicing. You know, when I was in university class for 3 hours a week, it wasn't that difficult to start speaking. But I didn't
Yes.
pursue Japanese after college. I just took the year of language I was required and didn't pursue it. But you know, now when I'm with my son and he's watching his Japanese anime, I
Oh,
can
my
understand a
culture.
few basic words, but
Tamires?
Yes.
I never studied Japanese, but I like to watch anime, and I like to read some songs. And I don't know if I'm correct, but the Romanji, it's like the translation of the Japanese characters in our language. It sounds like we speak how we write, and in English, it's not like that. We write
neither
the
in
word.
Portuguese it isn't like that either.
I didn't realize that because I'm Brazilian. So.
Yeah, but that's like everybody in Portuguese, when you first start learning Portuguese, they're like, you just say exactly how it's written. And I have to say, gostoso, gostosa.
Yeah, but I don't know. I understood that the
Yeah,
Japanese
but
is
like,
easier to
there's
pronounce.
nothing in the word that tells you to pronounce that O differently.
Okay.
You know, you have to understand the language to know that the O is going to get pronounced differently. There's no accent on it. There's no mark. In some languages,
Yeah.
you're going to get some kind of an accent mark or a little zero underneath it or something that tells you that the word changed sound. But in Portuguese, sometimes you just have to feel it.
Yeah,
You know?
the same goes to English.
Yeah,
Because
English is sometimes
and-
counterintuitive.
Yeah, and adds to it the accent that changed. Here in Brazil is the same thing. I understand that we have a lot of accents, and in English the same thing. And I had some professors. They had a different accent, and it is. I think English is not worse. Is way harder.
I know
than
it's more
Japanese.
complicated. I don't know if it's true, but I think that there are more varieties of English than any other language. I saw this is several years ago, about 13 years ago, that I saw a study from Oxford that they said that just the city of London has 35 varieties of English. That's 8 million people with 35 varieties. English around the world has over 360 varieties. So I agree with you. They're like, a friend of mine did a semester in university in the United Kingdom. He said that you can't understand the people in Wales. Like on the weekend, they would go hiking in Wales, and outside of the main cities, you can't understand Welsh people. They are speaking English, but the variety of English they speak is different enough that for an American, it's quite challenging. The Welsh person understands the American perfectly, but the American can't understand the Welsh person.
Yeah. So what I was trying to say before is that sometimes we think that English, we should know English perfectly because it's a common language. We see a lot of people speaking in English, so we think that it is easy. It's not. We are trying a hard thing. We are trying to learn something that's not that easy, but we can do it.
Yeah, I saw even for computer programs to translate between English and other languages is apparently sometimes a difficult programming task, because a bunch of stuff in English is intuitive. It's easy for me to say, you have to feel the preposition, but try to teach a machine to feel the preposition, you know?
Yeah, for me, when I started studying English, Tamires, English was impossible for me when I started. And I just started studying English because I tried a vestibular that I didn't know which course I was trying. I just did the enrollment for vestibular, because it was a free university and I didn't have money to pay. And then I tried. There were 6 people. I was the only one who passed the test. Then the first class, I found out I entered a bilingual secretary course. My first class was English and I didn't understand anything. Then I told myself, or I give up or I learn English. So then I started studying. I bought a grammar book and I started studying grammar. This was my first time, my first challenge, because I was studying, then I started selling things like Avon, lingeries, to pay English course. And then my father paid my bus. And I had a very short wage at that time. I taught in public schools only as an intern, and I had a very short wage that it didn't help a lot. So then that was how I started studying English. I was kind of obligated, or you study or you give up. So I'm not the kind of person who gave up or who gives up of things. So then I thought, okay, I can learn English, I can learn mathematics, I can learn everything, but I can't give up. That's why I learned.
That goes back to the mindset conversation that we were having earlier. The Carol Dweck, invested decades of her life into studies of positive psychology. If we can accept that it's possible to learn, we can learn anything.
Yeah.
But you have to accept that it's possible to learn, but the key is mindset. And her results were fantastically impressive in Seattle. Seattle is like the head of Google and IBM and a bunch of companies. So they have some of the best private schools in the world for high school level. And Carol Dweck and her researchers went into an Indian reservation that's outside of Seattle. The 3 worst schools in Washington state, and one of them was one of the worst schools in the country. Without spending any money, just spending time, they managed to get those kids in the reservation school to the same level as the kids that were Bill Gates kids, So, and it was just mindset change, just teaching the kids, there's nothing stopping you from learning. The idea of I'm bad at math is fictional. The idea of I can't dance is fictional. That's all stuff that you can do. And the only thing you have to change is your perspective, So I think it's super important, that idea of mindset, understanding that it's something that's possible. It's very difficult. Like, English is not an easy language. I don't think it's technically as difficult as Portuguese, but it's not an easy language. But you have to accept it's a challenge, but I can do it.
And if you define why should I learn English, you are going to, if you see the why it's important for you, you are going to learn it. But here everybody knows how to speak English. So you know why you speak English. Cliff is the only one who doesn't need the why to speak English because he was born there.
Well, I don't know if it's too me focused, but some of you guys probably know the story about my first day teaching. I don't know if some of you guys haven't heard it, but I came to Brazil. I worked in advertising in the United States, and I imagined I would come work in advertising in Brazil too. And showing up in Brazil in 2000 as an American, English schools found my phone number. Back then it was, regular phones, and started calling me to ask me to go talk to their students. And 11 days after I was in the country, I was employed already. The problem was I am not a teacher by trade. I studied philosophy and communication in university, right? So I go in to teach, and I teach my first day. And at the end of the day, it's 9:30 at night. I walked into my boss's office and I said, I really appreciate the opportunity, but you hired the wrong person. I don't know what I'm doing. And this woman was wise enough that she understood that that was going to happen because she had worked with a Canadian teacher before. And she had made a photocopy of a grammar book for English teachers. And she turned around and grabbed it and dramatically slammed it down on her desk and said, study, you know. And I spent 18 months of intensive study in my own language that we think as native speakers we know, but we don't know well enough to teach. And also, how do you teach? Like I've occasionally talked to some of my first students. They said the first year that I taught was a nightmare. Like the idea that, oh, you got to have an American, you got to get a native language teacher. I've become friends with some of my old students, and one of them said, geez, Cliff, that first 6 or 8 months, it was just, you know, she said sofrimento in Portuguese to go to class. Like they were putting up with me because they liked me. But they said I had no idea how to teach. I didn't know what I was doing at all, you know? And it took me some time to focus and understand what I was doing and why I was doing it and what I needed to learn. And I still study English today. Now I've been teaching for 22 years, you know? So, but I do have a good why, because I want you guys to learn to speak English very well, and for you to get that promotion you want, and for you to, you know, open up opportunities for your families and your kids and stuff for the future.
And I'm sure Natasha is gonna get her promotion. Adriana is going to speak English very well to make presentation, like Michelle does. Tamiris is going to have a very good English for her Congress as a PhD. Thelma is going to speak fluently English and maybe Japanese someday.
Japanese is more difficult.
I'm sure.
I really think it's just learning to read that's difficult. But if you use Romaji, like Tamiris said, that you can just read the pronunciation, it's not that hard. The problem is learning all the kanji and like having to memorize.
But
right?
I had studied when I have 10 years old, and it's to return it, to learn the words, the letter. It's too difficult. I need to go to school again and start.
But some neuroscientists say that if you learned it when you were 10, those neural pathways should still be there. You weren't too young. So those neural pathways should be there. Sometimes we learn stuff when we're really, really young that we forget and can't recover. But 10, a lot of the neural pathways are already relatively permanent. So it's a matter of finding where they're buried. They're in there someplace. It's just a matter of finding where they're buried.
I can try to do it, but I don't remember the letter. I don't remember anything, because the English, for example, I stop it and continues. I stop and continues all the time. But the Japanese, I only stop it and no more classroom, no more anything.
One thing about stop and starting again, you always come back to a level before. Yeah.
Yes, it's terrible.
I think at least, Thelma, always to have a conversation class, even when you are very fluent, when you make presentations, when you live abroad and you come back to Brazil, you need to practice, because if you don't, you lose a lot of your fluency.
Yes, it's difficult because you stop at the time. Yes. and you need to return not one more level, but you need to return many levels. It's too difficult.
Yeah, I talked to a guy who lived in England. England, no, in Ireland. And he lived there for about 6 or 7 months. And he tried to speak with me in a conversation. And he couldn't speak because there are 3 years he doesn't speak English.
I think my brother's
Yes.
story is a little bit more desperate. My brother has a doctorate in pharmaceutical science now, and he's changed careers. But my brother's first career was French pedagogy, and he studied for a semester in Paris. Like, got his degree and went on to get a master's. And he changed careers, and then some time ago, about a decade ago, an old French friend of his needed some help with a document to get a doctorate or something in the United States. And they had to speak in English. He was unable to carry on a conversation with her in French. And he had been in our university like the most requested French teacher, you know? So he like had this shock of, I can't believe I lost something I dedicated 7 years of my life to. Now he's back to fluency in French, but he decided he was going to put it back in his life. You know, he watches movies in French with no subtitles. He reads the news in French. He calls and talks to his French friends on the telephone and things like that, puts the effort into it. But I think it's kind of almost a shocking story. But he said he went literally 10 years without opening his mouth and speaking French with anyone. Guys, I think that our time has run out. What time is it?
It's 8:27.
Okay, I think our time has run out. Thanks a lot so much for joining us. We're back to our regular schedule on Monday for everybody. Anybody who's available and wants to watch the second part of First Journey, it's going to be Saturday morning starting at around 9 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah.
We're probably going to end a little bit earlier this weekend, but it'll probably go from 9 until maybe 3:30 or 4. So if you want to review some of the basics, please join us on Saturday. And you don't have to stay the whole time. If you want to just jump in for an hour or watch part of it, that's also, you know, you don't have to think, oh, but I'm not free the whole day. Yeah, if you're free for a couple hours, come in and join us for a couple hours and pop out when you have to.
Oh.
Another thing is that Wednesday of next week at 9:14, our weekly live comes back, and it's the importance of clear communication and management. This first live of this year is going to be in Portuguese. So a lot of times our lives are in English, but this topic we're going to discuss in Portuguese, not necessarily just clear communication in English, but clear communication in general from a management standpoint.
Yeah.
So if you guys would be able to join us on Wednesday at it's 9:14, right?
Yeah, and we
Wednesday
have a
at 9:14.
student with us. Victor is going to be with us in the live.
Yeah, we convinced Victor to join
Yeah.
us, Michelle.
Yeah. And then Natasha, the next one.
Natasha, soon.
Yeah.
Soon it's your turn.
Yeah, everybody. And Natasha is in English, okay? Natasha, Adriana, in English, of course.
Hi, Victor in Portuguese and I'm in English. This is all right. Why?
Because you have the power of the women.
No.
We are powerful. Okay, people. So see you next week, okay? If you need something, if you need to talk to me, to me or to Cliff, you can call us on our
Reach out on WhatsApp or send an inbox on Instagram.
Okay. See you.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your presence.
See
Bye-bye.
you.
Have a good
Thank you.
weekend.
Bye bye.
Have a good weekend.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Oh.